Charles Bukowski, Mystery Leg. First of all, I had a very hard time locating the parking lot for the building. It wasn't off the main boulevard where the cars, all driven by merciless killers, were doing 55 miles per hour in a 25 mile per hour zone. The man riding my bumper so close I could see his snarling face in my rearview mirror caused me to miss the narrow alley that would have allowed me to circle the west end of the building in search of parking. I went to the next street, took a right, then took another right, spotted the building, a blue, heartless-looking structure, then took another right and finally saw it, a tiny sign, parking. I drove in. The guard had the wooden red and white barrier down. He stuck his head out of the little window. "Yeah?" he asked. He looked like a retired hitman. "To see Dr. Manx," I said. He looked at me disdainfully, then said, "Go ahead." The red and white barrier lifted. I drove in, drove around and around. I finally found a parking spot a good distance away, a football field away. I walked in. I finally found the entrance and the elevator, and the floor, and then the office number. I walked in. The waiting room was full. There was an old lady talking to the receptionist. "But can't I see him now?" "Mrs. Miller, you are here at the right time, but on the wrong day. This is Wednesday. You'll have to come back Friday." "But I took a cab. I'm an old lady. I haven't almost no money. Can't I see him now?" "Mrs. Miller, I'm sorry, but your appointment is on Friday. You'll have to come back then." Mrs. Miller turned away, unwanted, old and poor. She walked to the door. I stepped up smartly, informed them who I was. I was told to sit down and wait. I sat with the others. Then I noticed the magazine rack. I walked over and looked at the magazines. It was odd. They weren't of recent vintage. In fact, all of them were over a year old. I sat back down. 30 minutes passed. 45 minutes passed. An hour passed. The man next to me spoke. "I've been waiting an hour and a half," he said. "That's hell," I said. "They shouldn't do that." He didn't reply. Just then the receptionist called my name. I got up and told her that the other man had been waiting an hour and a half. She acted as if she hadn't heard. "Please follow me," she said. I followed her down a dark hall. Then she opened a door, pointed. "In there," she said. I walked in, and she closed the door behind me. I sat down and looked at a map of the human body hanging from the wall. I could see the veins, the heart, the intestines, all of it. It was cold in there, and dark, darker than in the hall. I waited maybe 15 minutes before the door opened. It was Dr. Manx. He was followed by a tired-looking young lady in a white gown. She held a clipboard. She looked depressed. "Well now," said Dr. Manx, "what is it?" "It's my leg," I said. "What is it about the leg?" asked Dr. Manx. "It hurts," I said. "Pain," wrote the lady. Then she saw me looking at the clipboard and turned away. "Did you fill out the form they gave you at the desk?" the doctor asked. "They didn't give me a form," I said. "Florence," he said, "give him a form." Florence pulled a form out from her clipboard, handed it to me. "Fill that out," said Dr. Manx. "We'll be right back." And they were gone, and I worked out the form. It was the usual: name, address, phone, employer, relatives, etc. There was also a long list of questions. I marked them all no. Then I sat there. 20 minutes passed. Then they were back. The doctor began twisting my leg. "It's the right leg," I said. "Oh," he said. Florence wrote something on her clipboard. Probably right leg. He switched to the right leg. "Does that hurt?" A little. "Not real bad?" "No." "Does this hurt?" "A little." "Not real bad?" "Well, the whole leg hurts, but when you do that, it hurts more." "But not real bad?" "What's real bad?" "Like you can't stand on it." "I can stand on it." Stand up." "All right." "Now rock on your toes, back and forth, back and forth." I did. "Hurt real bad?" he asked. "Just medium." "You know what?" Dr. Manx asked. "No." "We've got a mystery leg here." Florence wrote something on the clipboard. "I have?" "Yes, I don't know yet what's wrong with it. I want you to come back in 30 days. 30 days? "Yes, and stop at the desk on your way out, see the girl." Then they walked out. At the checkout desk there was a long row of bottles waiting, white bottles with bright orange labels. The girl at the desk looked at me. "Take 4 of those bottles." I did. She didn't offer me a bag, so I stuck them in my pockets. "That'll be $143, she said. $143? I asked. "It's for the pills," she said. I pulled out my credit card. "Oh, we don't take credit cards," she told me. "But I don't have that much money on me." "How much do you have?" I took out my wallet. $23. "We'll take that and bill you for the rest." I handed her the money. "See you in 30 days. She smiled. I walked out and into the waiting room. The man who had been waiting an hour and a half was still there. I walked out into the hall, found the elevator. Then I was on the first floor and out into the parking lot. My car was still a football field away, and my right leg began to hurt like hell after all that twisting Dr. Manx had done to it. I moved slowly to my car, got in, and it started, and soon I was out on the boulevard again. The 4 bottles of pills bulged painfully in my pockets as I drove along. Now I only had one problem left. I had to tell my wife I had a mystery leg. I could hear her already. "What? You mean he couldn't tell you what was wrong with your leg? What do you mean he didn't know? And what are those pills? Here, let me see those." As I drove along, I switched on the radio in search of some soothing music. There wasn't any.